Hey everyone, welcome back. We are sitting face to face in the Crosstalk Cafe today, and we are throwing out three massive, soul-searching questions that take us completely out of our comfort zones. In what areas of your life are you now ready to let God help you? What things are you ready to change in your life? And where exactly can you get the power to change them?
Man, those three questions instantly cut through all our generic, polite church answers. It forces us to stop hiding behind vague wishes and get incredibly specific about what is actually going on in our hearts, our thoughts, and our homes. Today, right here from the cafe, we want to talk about moving past the trap of human striving, how to spot the specific escape hatches we use to run away from our pain, and what it looks like to find a real, lasting power that actually transforms our day-to-day reality.
I am just so glad we are putting this directly on the table right away.
Me too.
I mean, sitting here with the coffee brewing in the background, it just strikes me how easy it is to treat Christian wellness as like a neat, tidy checklist of spiritual to-dos.
Right, like a quick five-step plan or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But true mental health and genuine spiritual recovery, they just do not fit onto a quick list.
Right.
This requires a really slow, deeply intentional conversation.
It really does.
We are setting out to provide a face-to-face, peer-to-peer reality check for you, the listener, and honestly, for ourselves, too.
Yeah, a reality check is really the only way forward. Because those three questions, they demand a level of honesty that, well, most of us are completely unaccustomed to offering.
Yeah, we really aren't used to it.
Not at all. We spend years, mastering the socially acceptable answers, especially in a church environment. We learn to speak this language that sounds really pious but carries absolutely no weight.
It's totally empty.
Right. We offer these sanitized versions of our struggles because the unfiltered truth feels entirely too dangerous.
Let's look closely at that dynamic for a second. Because before anyone can ask for the power to change, they have to identify exactly what needs changing.
Right. You have to know the problem.
Yeah. And the immediate hurdle is our natural inclination to just remain completely vague about our struggles. We fall into this insidious trap of vague spirituality and like really broad wishes.
Broad wishes. That is the perfect way to phrase it.
We use words that are technically true,
Yeah.
but completely devoid of the sharp edges of our actual reality.
It is an incredibly easy trap to fall into, and honestly, it is a masterclass in self-deception.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about it. If you stop someone in the lobby after a Sunday service and ask how they are doing, you will hear things like, oh, I just want less stress, or I really want a better relationship with my family, or I am trying to find more balance in this season.
Which all sound perfectly fun,
Yeah.
right? Like if someone tells me they want less stress, my immediate reaction is just to nod sympathetically.
Sure. You want to support them.
Exactly. I might even offer to pray for their stress.
Yeah.
But by keeping the language so incredibly broad, we are actually employing a highly effective self-preservation method.
Yes. That's exactly what it is.
That vague language completely protects our underlying dysfunction from being exposed to the light. It's just a smokescreen.
It is entirely a smokescreen. When you use generalities, you keep the real, sharp, painful issue safely hidden in the dark.
Yeah.
The stark difference between a vague wish and, specific readiness is just massive. Consider the difference between someone saying, I'm really working on my marriage right now.
Which we hear all the time.
All the time. Versus standing in the brutal truth and admitting, I am ready to let God help me with my habit of keeping a mental scorebook of my spouse's every failure.
Wow. Let's just stop right there and look at the mechanics of that difference, because that's huge.
You really is.
Saying, I'm working on my marriage, it requires basically no real surrender.
Yeah.
It frames the relationship as a project, something I can manage or manage my spouse into fixing.
Right. You're still in control.
Exactly. It keeps you right in the driver's seat. But admitting I keep a mental scorebook of every time my spouse messes up, and I hold it against them in my heart to feel superior.
That hurts to even say.
It does. That requires an absolute death to pride. It exposes the specific, ugly dysfunction right out in the open.
And that exposure is where the light of Christ actually performs the healing. We have to bring the specific realities of our day-to-day existence to him, not our sanitized summaries.
So true.
Think about the habit of chronic irritability. The polite Christian wish is just, I just need more patience.
Oh man, I have prayed that exact prayer so many times.
Right. We all have. We ask God for patience as if it is a commodity we can just download from the sky.
Yes.
But the raw honesty is saying, I use constant snapping irritability to keep people away from me because I'm terrified of letting them get close enough to see how deeply insecure I feel.
Wow, that hits close to home. And I see that exact same pattern constantly, especially with busyness.
Oh, busyness is a huge one.
How often do we hear people wear their schedule like a badge of honor?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just in a really busy season right now.
Everyone is always in a busy season.
Right. And the church even rewards this. We praise the person who volunteers for absolutely everything and never stops moving.
We give them awards.
We do. But if we drop the vague language, what is often sitting underneath all that busyness, it might be, I am using constant nonstop activity as a loud noise to completely drown out the internal static and the intense anxiety I feel the second the room goes quiet.
Exactly. When the room goes quiet, the thoughts get loud. So we just manufacture noise.
Yeah.
And this applies to everything, even the physical habits that mask our internal pain. We use polite phrases like, I need to eat healthier, or I need to watch my budget.
Yeah. I need to eat healthier is the polite generic wish. It sounds like a New Year's resolution.
Right.
But the raw honesty of recovery, the kind of honesty those three questions demand, is saying, I am ready to hand over the way I use food, or the way I use online shopping, or the way I use zoning out in front of a screen for 5 hours every night to completely numb my social anxiety.
You are naming the exact mechanism there. You are identifying the exact, messy, hidden corner.
Yeah, you're not hiding anymore.
Right. You are no longer talking about a symptom. You are pointing directly at the root.
But you know, if I am sitting in the listener's chair right now, my immediate thought is, why would I ever want to do that?
It's terrifying.
It is. If keeping things vague feels so incredibly safe, and if the church lobby fully accepts my polite answers, why is it so dangerous for my recovery to stay there?
That's the million-dollar question.
Like exposing the specific ugly details, it just feels like inviting a massive amount of unnecessary shame into my life. Why do we have to drag the most embarrassing parts of our character out into the open?
Well, the instinct is always that exposing the truth will crush us with shame. We really believe that if people, or, even if God saw the exact unvarnished truth, we would just be utterly rejected.
Yeah, that's the fear.
But the spiritual reality is actually the exact opposite. The light of Christ cannot heal what we refuse to uncover.
Wow.
When you keep your struggles vague, you are keeping them in the dark. And shame absolutely thrives in the dark.
It really does.
Shame loves secrecy. When you say, I struggle with stress, shame whispers, good. Keep the real issue hidden. Keep protecting the secret so I can keep tormenting you in private.
Okay, so keeping it vague is actually feeding the shame.
Feeding it directly.
So specificity actually dismantles the power of shame.
Specificity is the absolute prerequisite for freedom. When you finally name the specific ugly detail, when you say out loud, I am hoarding resentment, or I am numbing my pain with this exact habit, you drag that behavior straight into the light.
Right.
And in the light of God's grace, it just loses its dictatorial power over you. You realize that Jesus already knows about the hidden corner anyway.
Right, it's not like you're surprising him.
Exactly. He sees the mental scorebook, he sees the late-night online shopping, and he still loves you completely.
Yeah.
Naming it isn't about shaming you. It is about directing the restorative power of Jesus Christ exactly where the wound actually is.
I love that. You cannot bandage a wound if you completely refuse to show the doctor where you were bleeding.
You really can't.
You cannot just walk into a hospital and say, I hurt generally. You have to point to the exact spot, even if pointing to it hurts, even if it feels incredibly embarrassing.
Precisely. And, acknowledging our specific hidden corners naturally leads us to ask the next vital question. How did we build those corners in the first place?
We didn't just wake up one day with them.
Right. We did not just magically end up isolated or resentful or crippled by anxiety. We built these walls deliberately, brick by brick, as a way to survive.
Which brings us face to face with our chosen defense mechanisms. We construct these things because at some point they served a purpose.
It kept us safe. Or so we thought.
Yeah, they kept us from feeling pain. But to truly change, we must explicitly name and abandon the specific defense mechanisms we use to cope with our daily anxiety.
We have to.
We have to break up with our toxic escape hatches.
And we all have them, every single one of us. We have these toxic safety nets that we just throw out the second we feel threatened or insecure or overwhelmed by circumstances we cannot control.
Let's get incredibly practical here. What do these toxic escape hatches look like in real life?
Okay, let's name them.
Because we need to move past the theory and identify the actual behaviors right here in the room.
They show up in very common, almost universally accepted ways. They look like defensive sarcasm.
Oh, yeah.
They look like emotional withdrawal. They look like worst-case scenario thinking, which is often called catastrophizing.
Right.
These are the tools we reach for to survive a stressful interaction or an uncertain future, but they are incredibly toxic to our souls and our relationships.
We really need to spend a significant amount of time right here exploring the mechanics of these escape hatches.
It's vital.
Because isolating these precise defense mechanisms is where so many of us just get completely stuck.
We do.
We hesitate to drop these behaviors even when we consciously know they are damaging. Why? Like, why do we cling to things that actively make us miserable?
It's a great question.
Defensive sarcasm might get a quick laugh in a group, but it ultimately isolates you. Emotional withdrawal leaves you feeling incredibly lonely
So lonely.
and constantly preparing for the worst. It just fills your daily life with a thick dread. So why on earth do we hold on to them so tightly?
We hold on to them because they are deeply familiar.
Wow. Familiarity.
Yes, there is a strange, really powerful comfort in what is familiar, even if it is actively destroying your peace. These toxic safety nets, they provide a false sense of control over our pain.
Tell me more about that. Give me an example.
Okay, think about defensive sarcasm. If you and I are having a serious, vulnerable conversation, and I suddenly feel exposed or insecure, I might throw out a biting, sarcastic joke.
I know that move well. I've done it. It immediately shifts the energy in the room.
Right, and what does that sarcastic joke actually accomplish? It deflects.
It does.
It completely changes the subject. It immediately puts you on the defensive, or at least changes the emotional temperature of the room. It keeps you at arm's length. It is a counterfeit shield. It gives me the illusion that I am keeping myself from getting hurt, but in reality, it just traps me inside my own isolation. I remain safe, but I remain entirely alone.
A counterfeit shield that perfectly describes the mechanism. It promises protection, but actually delivers a prison.
Exactly.
It builds a wall to keep the pain out, but it also keeps the love, the connection, and the healing out.
That's it, exactly. Or take emotional withdrawal. When conflict arises in a marriage or a friendship, someone might just shut down completely.
The silent treatment.
Yes, they offer the silent treatment, they retreat to their bedroom, or they go out to the garage and busy themselves with a project.
Just tinkering away, ignoring the world.
Right. And their mind is telling them, I am protecting my peace. I am keeping myself safe from this argument. I am taking the high road by not engaging.
But they really aren't.
No. The reality is they are locking themselves in solitary confinement. Withdrawal does not solve the anxiety or the conflict. It incubates it. It lets the resentment fester in the dark.
Man, and what about worst-case scenario thinking? Catastrophizing. This is one that is so prevalent, yet we rarely recognize it as a toxic escape hatch.
We really don't.
We just view it as being a planner. Yeah.
Right, being responsible. But catastrophizing is a massive counterfeit shield. The mind convinces you, if I can imagine the absolute worst possible outcome of this situation, if I can mentally walk through losing my job or my child getting hurt or this relationship ending, then I won't be surprised when it happens.
We'll be prepared.
Exactly. I will be prepared. We truly believe we are protecting ourselves from the shock of disappointment.
But what is the actual reality there?
The reality is we are living the trauma of a disaster that hasn't even happened yet.
Wow, living the trauma early.
Yes. We suffer through the grief of a phantom event, and in doing so, we completely drain our joy in the present moment.
We literally suffer twice.
At least twice.
Once in our imagination, and again, if the thing actually happens. But usually the thing never even happens.
Yeah.
So we just suffer for absolutely no reason.
It's exhausting. I mean, it just completely drains you.
It does. But I want to offer some genuine pushback here, because the line between a personality trait and a toxic escape hatch, well, it could feel very blurry sometimes.
Okay, I hear that.
I can hear a listener right now getting a little defensive. They might say, hold on. Sarcasm is just my personality. I'm just a funny, dry, witty person. That is how God made me.
I've heard that exact defense.
Right. Or they might say, preparing for the worst isn't catastrophizing, it is just being realistic. I am a pragmatic person, and the world is a dangerous place. Someone has to look out for the pitfalls.
Sure.
So how do we honestly tell the difference between a natural personality trait and a toxic escape hatch?
That is the crucial line we have to define, and honestly, it requires brutal honesty to evaluate. The difference is entirely found in the fruit it produces and the motivation behind it.
The fruit and the motivation.
Yes. A personality trait like having a dry, quick-witted sense of humor can be used to bring joy, to connect with people, to lighten a genuinely heavy load for someone who is suffering.
Yeah. Humor can be a beautiful gift.
It absolutely is. But a trait becomes an escape hatch when it is used to run away from vulnerability.
Ah, I see.
It becomes toxic when you use it to avoid truth or to avoid the painful reality that you actually need to surrender your fear to Jesus.
So it is entirely about the function of the behavior.
Right.
If my humor brings us together, it's a relational gift.
Right.
If I use my humor as a weapon to push you away because I am terrified of letting you see my fear, then it is an escape hatch.
Exactly. And the same goes for being realistic. If your realism helps you sit down and make a wise financial budget for your family, it is a truly helpful tool.
That's just wisdom.
But if your realism keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, paralyzed by fear of a hypothetical future, completely refusing to trust God with tomorrow, that is an escape hatch.
That makes so much sense.
And true readiness, going back to the initial 3 questions of what we are ready to change, it means being entirely willing to let go of these reactive habits.
Yeah.
It means recognizing the counterfeit shield for what it is and just dropping it.
But letting them go completely feels incredibly dangerous. Like, if I drop the shield, I am standing there completely exposed.
It feels dangerous because you are stepping out from behind your own carefully constructed walls. You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
But this is exactly where true faith enters the picture. You have to trust that God's presence will protect you far better than the defensive walls you construct yourself.
We build these tiny, fragile walls when we have access to so much more.
We do.
Yeah.
If you look at Scripture, the Word of God is incredibly clear about where our real safety lies. Over and over, the Bible describes God as our refuge and our fortress. Psalm 91 says, "He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust."
The imagery of a fortress is just so powerful.
It's massive.
Because if God is genuinely our fortress, then our little counterfeit shields are not just unnecessary, they're actually kind of insulting.
They really are. They are
Yeah.
completely obsolete. I mean, if you were standing inside a massive, indestructible stone fortress, you do not need to hold up a flimsy piece of cardboard to protect yourself from the wind.
That is such a vivid picture. The cardboard shield.
Right. God's divine protection is that fortress. When we surrender our escape hatches, we are dropping the cardboard.
Wow.
We're finally acknowledging that His strength is actually sufficient to handle the conflict, the vulnerability, and the uncertain future.
That makes profound logical sense.
Yeah.
I see it. But knowing it logically and living it out practically, well, those are two very different things.
Oh, 100%. The longest journey is from the head to the heart.
Because once we recognize our toxic safety nets and we finally agree, okay, I need to drop these. I see the cardboard. I need to stop the defensive sarcasm. I need to stop the emotional withdrawal. I need to stop obsessing over the worst case scenario.
Right, you make the decision.
Yeah. The immediate, deeply ingrained human impulse is to try and fix all of those habits entirely by ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. The human ego immediately steps in to take charge of the recovery process.
We identify the problem and we say, all right, I see the issue. I will handle it. I will simply try harder.
I'll do it myself.
Exactly. We decide we're going to use sheer willpower to overcome our deepest fears and our most entrenched habits. And that leads us directly into the massive trap we need to discuss next. The empty reality of human striving and the absolute necessity of divine dependency.
This is where so many well-meaning, deeply sincere believers get completely stuck and thoroughly defeated.
Yeah, I've been there so many times.
We realize we need to change, but instead of surrendering the process to God, we turn our spiritual recovery into a self-help project.
Ouch.
We trade the dysfunction of the escape hatch for the dysfunction of perfectionism and self-reliance. But the truth is, relying on self-directed striving always leaves us heavily drained, incredibly weary, and totally defeated.
It is a devastating cycle.
Yeah.
Real, lasting transformation is never found in a frenzy of forced behavior modification.
Never.
Let's walk through what that cycle of human striving actually looked like in practice, because I think every single person listening has lived this agonizing, repetitive cycle.
It is the universal cycle of human performance. Let's trace it out.
Walk me through a typical day in that cycle.
Okay. You wake up in the morning, you have had a decent night's sleep, and you feel intensely determined to be better.
You feel fresh. You have hope.
Exactly. You look in the mirror and you make a solemn vow. Today, I will not lose my temper with the kids. Today, I will not let my anxious thoughts dictate my mood. Today, I will not be critical of my spouse. I am going to be a peaceful, joyful person.
You hype yourself up. You
Yeah.
completely appoint yourself as the absolute dictator over your own mind and your own reactions.
Exactly. You are relying entirely on the sheer force of your own willpower.
Right.
And, for the first hour or two, it might even feel like it is working. You are successfully suppressing the anger. You are forcing the smile. You are biting your tongue.
White-knuckling it through breakfast.
Yes. But human willpower is a highly finite resource. It fatigues rapidly under pressure.
It really does.
So by mid-morning, when the dog knocks over the coffee and the emails are piling up and the kids are screaming and your spouse makes a passing comment that just rubs you the wrong way,
The pressure just builds and builds.
that sheer effort simply evaporates. You hit a massive, immovable wall of failure before noon.
The dam breaks. You snap at the kids, you withdraw from your spouse, you plunge right back into the catastrophizing, you reach instinctively for the exact toxic escape hatch you swore you wouldn't use.
And then comes the crushing, suffocating weight of defeat. You feel completely depleted.
So true.
You look at the mess and you wonder, why can't I just fix myself? What is wrong with me? You feel like a spiritual failure.
Yeah, that shame comes rushing right back in.
And then, tragically, the cycle starts all over again the next day. You wake up, make a harder vow, try with more intensity, and fail even faster.
But why are we so drawn to this cycle?
It's deceptive.
It is. Why does human striving feel so much like genuine productivity? Because when I am striving, when I am white-knuckling my way through a stressful afternoon, forcing myself to hold it together, I really feel like I'm doing the right thing.
It feels like work.
It feels noble. It feels like taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But you were saying it actually produces nothing but heavy frustration and inevitable collapse.
It feels like productivity because it keeps us incredibly busy, and most importantly, it keeps us in the illusion of control.
Wow. Control again?
The human heart deeply craves control. We think, if I am working this hard at fixing my anger, if I am sweating this much over my anxiety, surely God is pleased with my effort.
We want a gold star for trying so hard.
Exactly. But we are entirely missing the point. We are trying to do the Holy Spirit's job.
Wow.
We are trying to manufacture the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, through a factory of white-knuckled human determination.
And it is a completely futile endeavor.
Yeah.
You cannot manufacture spiritual fruit through human effort. It always leaves you running on empty.
Always.
We're trying to hold a door shut against a hurricane rather than stepping entirely out of the storm and into the fortress.
That is a brilliant way to put it. We're fighting the wind instead of resting in the walls.
So let's contrast that wearing, exhausting human effort with the steady, restorative power of Jesus Christ. If real transformation flows exclusively from leaning on Him, what does that actually look like?
That's the core question.
Because leaning on Jesus can easily become just another one of those vague, polite church phrases we talked about earlier.
Oh, for sure. It can sound like a bumper sticker if we aren't careful.
Right. Just let go and let God. What does that mean on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.?
Well, the power to change our lives is an invisible spiritual reality. It cannot be generated from within our own finite reserves.
Okay.
When we stop playing the dictator over our circumstances, when we stop trying to muscle our way into good behavior and genuinely surrender the reins to Jesus Christ, we tap into a strength that does not fatigue.
It never runs out.
Never. It is recognizing our utter bankruptcy.
And the Bible gives us a stunning, counterintuitive picture of this. Think about the Apostle Paul.
Oh, this is the perfect example.
He had this intense, ongoing struggle, this thorn in the flesh, as he described it. He pleaded with God to take it away.
3 times he begged.
Right. He wanted the circumstance fixed. He wanted the struggle removed so he wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. But God's response to him in 2 Corinthians 12 completely flips our human understanding of power.
It turns it upside down.
God tells him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness."
My power is made perfect in weakness. That goes against every human instinct we possess.
It really does.
We believe power is made perfect in discipline, in trying harder, in white-knuckled effort. But God says it is made perfect in weakness.
That is profound.
True. Lasting dependence on God's strength only happens when we reach the absolute end of ourselves and admit our complete human weakness.
Which hurts. It hurts our pride.
It does, but it is acknowledging that the spiritual reality of Christ's power actively sustains us precisely in the moment when our own willpower evaporates.
I want to dig into the exact mechanics of that moment. Because when you hit that wall at 11:00 a.m. and the anxiety is flaring up, the instinct is to just try harder.
Oh, absolutely. The instinct is to dig your heels in.
But you are saying that is the exact moment to stop trying.
Yes, that is the exact moment to say, Lord, I have absolutely nothing left. I'm completely powerless over this anger. I am powerless over this anxiety. I cannot fix this feeling, and I need you to step in and manage my reactions right now.
Hmm. But, let me challenge the practicality of this. When we talk about trading human, striving for divine peace, doesn't that sound incredibly passive?
I hear that concern a lot.
I mean, if I just stop trying to fix my own mind, aren't I just giving up? If I tell God I am powerless over my anger, doesn't that just give me a license to yell at my kids and say, well, sorry, I'm powerless?
Right, the devil made me do it kind of thing.
Exactly. What does actively surrendering the reins to Jesus actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon when the pressure is really on?
That is the most common fear regarding surrender. That surrender somehow equals apathy, or worse, an excuse for bad behavior.
Yeah, that it's a get-out-of-jail-free card.
But there is a profound, life-altering difference between apathetic resignation and active, deliberate surrender.
Okay, break that down for me.
Resignation is passive. Resignation says, I can't change, I am powerless, so I'm just going to give in to my anxiety or my rage. This is just who I am.
That is just defeat.
Exactly. And we are absolutely not advocating for throwing our hands up and letting destruction run wild.
Never. We still have a responsibility.
Absolutely. Active surrender, on the other hand, is a highly intentional, incredibly difficult moment-by-moment choice.
Moment by moment.
On that Tuesday afternoon when the anxiety flares up and the chest gets tight, active surrender is the choice to pause.
Just stop.
Yes. It is the deliberate refusal to reach for the toxic escape hatch of catastrophizing. It is the deliberate refusal to try and muscle your way into a fake sense of calm.
So what do you do instead?
Instead, you actively pivot your focus toward the reality of God's presence. You pray, Jesus, I am feeling entirely overwhelmed with anxiety right now. I cannot fix this feeling. I cannot control the future, but I give this fear to you. I yield my right to control this outcome. Please lead my next step.
That is beautiful.
You are handing the steering wheel over, but you are still in the car, actively participating in the journey by keeping your eyes fixed on His direction rather than the storm outside.
You are yielding the right to control the outcome. You are stepping out of the role of general manager of the universe.
Exactly. You just resigned from that position. You are relying on His restorative power instead of your own frantic performance. You stop trying to fix the anxiety and you let Him walk you through it.
I love that. And I want to pause the conversation right here and just look directly at you, the listener, for a moment.
Yeah, let's bring it right to them.
Just think about everything we have walked through so far. The polite, vague wishes that keep us sick. The toxic safety nets and counterfeit shields we use to avoid pain.
The heavy cardboard shields.
Right. And the sheer exhausting effort of trying to fix yourself day in and day out.
It takes such a toll.
If you are still running yourself ragged, trying to fix your own mind through sheer effort, are you finally ready to trade your human, striving for divine peace?
That is the question.
Are you finally weary enough of your own management to let God actually take over?
That is the defining question of recovery. And it requires a deeply honest, incredibly brave answer.
But here is the critical reality about that question. Answering it and maintaining that posture of active surrender we just talked about. It is nearly impossible to do accurately in total isolation.
Nearly impossible.
We can sit in our rooms all day, listen to teaching and think about surrender, but our own minds will continuously play tricks on us.
They absolutely will.
Which brings us to the final, indispensable piece of our time together today. The absolute necessity of bringing these truths into a visible, physical community.
The relational sounding board.
Yes, the relational sounding board of Friday nights.
This is where the theology meets the pavement. We cannot adequately confront these three massive questions: where we need help, what we need to change, and where the power comes from, while sitting alone in our own heads.
We just don't have the perspective.
No. Celebrate Recovery provides the meticulously crafted structure necessary to move from internal, private reflection to visible relational steps alongside peers who are walking the exact same road.
We have to move from isolation to the seats. We have to look other people in the eye. But why? Why is a physical peer community an absolute necessity?
That's a valid question.
Right, like why can't someone just do this alone with their Bible, a journal, and a quiet hour in the morning?
Because we desperately need others to act as a mirror for our recovery.
A mirror?
When we are isolated, our own minds will lie to us with staggering frequency. The human heart is incredibly deceptive, especially when it comes to self-preservation.
It wants to protect the ego at all costs.
Exactly. When you are alone, your mind will convince you that your vague spirituality is actually enough. It will tell you that you are making great progress when, in reality, you are just spinning your wheels in a new, more acceptable way.
Oh man, the mind loves to rebrand dysfunction.
It really does.
It will convince you that your toxic safety nets are actually just healthy boundaries.
Yes, that happens all the time.
It will whisper, I'm not emotionally withdrawing from my spouse. I'm just setting a boundary to protect my peace.
Which sounds so spiritual.
Or, I'm not catastrophizing. I'm just being a responsible provider. Without a sounding board, we just believe our own lies.
Yes. The mind is a master at justifying our escapes. And when we are alone, our internal static goes completely unchallenged.
There's no one there to call it out.
There's no one there to hold up the mirror. There's no one to say, hey, I noticed you completely shut down and changed the subject when we brought up your family. There is no one to lovingly point out the blind spots that we are structurally unable to see ourselves.
We need that feedback.
Yeah.
Furthermore, isolation breeds a terrifying level of secrecy.
And we know what secrecy does.
And secrecy is the native environment of shame.
We discussed earlier how shame thrives in the dark. But when we vocalize our readiness out loud in a safe physical environment with people who intimately understand the struggle,
It changes everything.
it shatters that secrecy completely. It forcefully drags the hidden corners right into the light.
Yeah.
When you sit in a circle of peers and say out loud, using your actual voice, I am powerless over my need to control my family and my life has become unmanageable, the grip of that control instantly, tangibly weakens.
There is something miraculous about hearing your own voice admit the specific, ugly truth in front of another human being.
Yeah.
It shifts the reality from an internal battle to a shared burden.
Because it makes it real. It is no longer just a private thought floating in your head that you can rationalize away. It is a visible, relational step of surrender.
And that is exactly why the rhythm of a Friday night at Celebrate Recovery is designed the exact way it is. It isn't just a random schedule we threw together.
Not at all.
Every single part serves a specific vital purpose in breaking isolation and fostering genuine surrender.
Let's walk the listener through that specific rhythm right now. Let's explain how the structure of a Friday night systematically operates to create that safe environment for honesty.
Okay, let's do it. Walk us through a Friday.
It all starts with the large group worship.
Which is such a powerful time.
It is. We come together in one room, all of us carrying our varied struggles, our mixed motives, and our weariness to collectively acknowledge God's presence.
All the mess in one room.
Exactly. We sing, we hear a lesson, or we listen to a real-life testimony. This grounds us in the foundational truth that no matter what specific issue brought us through the doors, we are all relying on the exact same higher power, Jesus Christ.
It completely levels the playing field.
It does. There are no experts and no beginners. There are only people in need of grace.
It takes our eyes off our specific, overwhelming problems for a moment and fixes them securely on the only one who actually has the power to solve them.
Exactly. It sets the spiritual tone for the whole night. Then we transition into gender-specific small groups.
This is the core of it.
This is where the real gritty mirror work happens. It is a smaller, highly protected, confidential environment where you can finally stop hiding behind vague wishes and polite Christian phrasing.
You can just be real.
You are sitting in a circle with peers who will nod their heads in deep understanding because they get it. They've been there.
They really have.
They aren't there to fix you. They aren't there to offer unsolicited advice. They are simply there to witness your surrender. It is the safest place on earth to name your specific escape hatches.
And because it is gender specific, it removes a massive layer of posturing. There is an added layer of safety to be truly painfully vulnerable about the specific hidden corners of our lives, our thoughts, our marriages, our private habits, without the distraction or the instinct to perform that can sometimes happen in mixed settings.
Precisely. It strips away the remaining defenses. And then the night culminates right here at the Crosstalk Cafe.
The exact spot we are sitting in right now.
Right here. This is the informal relational time. It is where you get to build the fellowship, share a cup of coffee, and realize that you are part of a living, breathing family.
You belong.
You are not a recovery project. You are a peer. The cafe is where the isolation is finally completely dismantled. It is where you realize you do not have to walk this out alone.
I love Friday nights. Honestly, it is the absolute highlight of my week because I see the visible physical relief on people's faces week after week. The relief of stepping out of the crushing isolation of human striving and pulling up a seat at the table.
It is a beautiful thing to witness.
So, if you are listening to this conversation right now and you are tired, weary, running on empty, if you are sick of your own vague wishes and drained by your toxic safety nets, we want to directly invite you to step into this reality.
We want you here.
We invite you to walk the road to peace alongside peers who truly understand the struggle.
We want you in the seats. We want to hear your specific story. We want to stand with you as you drop the counterfeit shields.
Join our family this Friday night, 6:30 p.m. large group worship, 7:30 p.m. gender-specific small groups, 8:30 p.m. Crosstalk Cafe, the exact spot we are talking from right now. We meet at Peters Creek Baptist Church in Southport, Pennsylvania.
And if you aren't local, head to crlocator.com and enter your zip code.
Find a family near you.
The structure is the same, and the grace is exactly the same.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, or if you just need to reach out to a real person before you take that intimidating step through the doors,
Which we know is hard.
you can email Craig Amstone at craig.amstone@gmail.com or contact the church office at info@pcbc.org. We are here for you.
You don't have to carry the heavy, crushing weight of human striving anymore.
Yeah.
The power is available, but it requires your surrender.
You really don't. As we wrap up our time together today, I want to leave you with one last provocative challenge to mull over this week as you go about your days. Think about the one specific escape hatch you swore you'd never let go of.
The sarcasm, the withdrawal, the endless planning.
If you completely released your grip on it today, what is the quiet truth about your life that God is waiting to show you underneath?